Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Photoshop tutorial. In this one I'm going to teach you how to create a cool neon light effect. So this is going to be an example of what it's going to look like. We're going to create this cool neon light surrounding the subject with the glow and this cool cyberpunk look. So let me show you how to do that part right now. As always, download today's exercise files and open them all up in Photoshop. So pause the video, do that part now, and then join me here on Neon 01 to get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're not going to do any duplicating for this one. I know you're used to that, but we don't always have to do that part. But for this one, everything will be on its own layer, so we won't cause any permanent damage. So the first thing we're going to do, we're not going to use the brush tool yet, but we're going to choose the brush tool. So click on the brush tool, but we just need to make sure it has a few settings. So don't start brushing anything just yet. We just need to switch some of the settings around. So the first thing is to make sure that the hardness of the brush is all the way at 100%. So go to your brush settings, make sure it's 100%. Make sure you're on one of the regular ones too. So the general brushes, don't be on the special effect or the splatter one. Make sure you're on the regular general brush and make sure the hardness is at 100%. So it has the nice round circle. And we also want to make the circle or the size of the brush itself fairly small. So there's no set number it has to be, but we want it to be pretty small like this because we're going to have thin neon lines. Whatever you set it to, if you don't like it later, I'll show you how to go back and change it. So just make it fairly small for right now and make sure that the foreground color is set to white. So make sure your colors have been reset to black and white and make sure you click this so white is in the front. Okay? So that's looking good. So now, before we do anything, we're going to go to a new tool called the pen tool right here. It looks like the little tip of a pen head, and the shortcut is P on your keyboard. So click the pen tool, and we're not going to click and drag and draw anything. The pen tool is a click and connect the dots sort of thing. By default, it should already be on path, but double check up here that this is set to path and not shape or anything else. This should be on path. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw a fun little shape around our subject. And we're going to have it crossing them in multiple points to make it look like it's going to go around their bodies. So you can draw whatever shape you want. You can draw a triangle, or I'll do a rectangle. So just click once and then click again and then click whatever kind of shape you want to draw, like that. And then click to connect them right here. And make sure that the line crosses your subject's body a couple of times. Don't draw over their head. Make sure it goes through their face and through their body, just like you see here. Okay, perfect. So now we are going to add a new layer. So we're going to create a new blank layer. We're not doing a layer mask. We're not duplicating it. We're going to click right here, the create a new layer button. So click that. So then you see we have this new blank layer right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here back to the image, right click on the picture, and then choose stroke path right here. So we're going to border, that's what a stroke is a border of the path we just made. So click that, and for the tool, set it to the brush tool, which is why we preset our brush earlier, and then click OK. So this is the part where you can change your brush thickness if you want. For me, I think that's a little too much. So if you need to change it, you can do Control Z to undo, and then go back and just change your brush settings. So if I go back to the brush, I'm going to make mine a little bit smaller, like that. And then let's go back to the pen tool and try again. So if you don't like the way your neon looks, if it's too thick or something, just go back to your brush, make your brush smaller, and then come back to your pen tool. So let's do it again. Right click, stroke path, it's on brush, and then click OK. So you can see my line's a little bit thinner now because it depends on your brush thickness. So I like it like that. I think that looks good. Excellent. So now we have this. We're going to start adding a couple of effects to this. So on this new layer with the shape, again, remember you to add a new layer. If you didn't, it's going to be attached to the image, and that's not what you want. You want the rectangle to be on its own layer or whatever shape that you drew. Come down here to effects, and we're going to add 3 cool effects to this. Let's go first to color overlay right here. Go to color overlay. Leave everything the way it is, but just change the color. So click on this square right here. Yours will probably be gray or something like that. Just click right here and change the color. Pick a bright neonish color. So maybe something like bright pink or bright green, or something, whatever you like that. But make it bright, and then click OK. All right, so we have our color overlay. The next thing we're going to add is an inner glow. So click on inner glow right here, and we're going to play around with a couple settings. We can adjust the opacity. Let's pick a new color. The color is going to be white. So right here in this square, make sure you pick this square right here, and then set this to white. And then the source is going to be center. Yours is probably on edge by default. Choose center. And then we're just going to adjust these size and settings right here. So we're going to have the choke set to 0, and then we're going to adjust the size. So you can see if I adjust the size, you can see how it's growing white from the middle right there. Just a little bit, right about there, not too bad. You can mess around with these settings right here. Doesn't really matter, but you want to look like it's a white neon tube with that neon color on the outside. All right, that's looking cool. Next, we're going to go to an outer glow. Let's give it an outer glow. And we want to pick roughly the same color. So let's use color again. And let's pick that cool neon greenish. Remember, if you don't remember the color, you can go back and copy paste the hex code. If I go back to color overlay and I go back to this color, I can copy this code right here. So copy it. And if I go back to my glow, whenever I'm picking a color, remember we did our mood boards and our hex colors, I can come down here and I could paste it. And now I have that same exact color. Perfect. So just mess around with these a little bit so you see that cool glow. See how it's glowing like that. You don't want it too big to start. We just want a little subtle glow, kind of like that. Adjusting how it works. Just a soft little outer glow like that. A couple things to keep in mind that I do want you to add. Where it says blending mode, set it to linear dodge. This one right here. And this little thing that says contour right here. Click on this curve one. Yours is going to be straight by default. Click down here on the curve and it'll just add a slight curve to it. But everything else, feel free to just kind of mess around with. So now you can see what's happening already. We're getting that cool neon glow on this tube. And now it's looking pretty awesome. So once you've added those three things, inner glow, color overlay, and outer glow, click OK. And again, if any of those parts you missed or were too confusing, go back and watch it again. And if you've watched it and you still have questions, please ask me. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to change our brush settings again. Let's go to brush. We're not going to brush on the image. We're just going to go to our brush and change the settings. Now what we're going to do for the brush, come up to your brush settings. This one we're going to make the hardness at 0. We want a soft brush. And this one we're going to make the size a little bit bigger. So I like to use the shortcut keyboard shortcuts for my size. Make it a little bit bigger. Let's say right there. I want it to be a little bit thicker than the original one because now we're going to add a super neon glow to it. All right, so now that we've changed our brush settings, everything's looking good, we're going to change the color again. So now, instead of being white, click this and choose your bright neon color again. I'm going to paste it right here. Control V, paste that exact same cool green color that I like. So to recap, I went to the brush, I changed it to 0% hardness, I made it a little bit bigger right here, and I changed my foreground color to whatever neon color I chose originally. Now let's go back to the pen tool again. We don't need to draw our shape, it's already there, but before we do anything, we need to create another new layer because we don't want to draw on the same layer, it needs to be separated. Come back over here, create another new layer, and then we're going to come back and stroke the path again. Right click on the picture and do stroke path. And then it should be set to brush already, just click OK. And now you can see what's happening right here is it added this soft brush glow. But now we can't see our neon tube, so the way we fix that is we just need to change the blending mode. So let's go back to our new layer, double click to open up the blending options, and just change the blending mode. Scroll through the blending mode until you find something that you like. Scroll through here. You can see how each blending mode affects the image a little bit differently. Just pick whichever one you like the most. I'm going to go with hard light right there. I kind of like that one. That looks cool. But pick one that you like best and then click OK. Awesome. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start grouping these together. We'll get rid of our path and I'll show you how to select out the subject. Okay, so our two layers right here, these are the two rectangles. So we're going to group these together, layer 1 and layer 2. So select one and then hold shift on your keyboard and click the other one. So now you have both of them selected. And we're going to put them into a group. So to group them together, come down here to this little folder where it says create a group and click on that. Now we have our group. I'm going to rename it to neon because I know that's the neon stuff. So I renamed the group to neon. And right now this path is getting in our way and it's a little distracting. We don't need it anymore. So let me show you how to delete it. We've always been in this layers panel, but come over here to where it says paths. And you'll see that this is the path that we created, this work path. Just delete this. You can right click and choose delete, or you can drag it and drop it in the trash can right there. So now you see your shape is gone. The original, your glowing neon tube is still there, but that blue line that you drew originally is disappeared. Now let's go back to our layers panel. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to temporarily hide this group because now we're going to select our subject. So click on the background layer and use either the quick select tool or you can use the faster method I showed you in a few lessons ago to select the subject. You come up here to select and then subject. If you have a clear image like this, it should do a pretty good job of selecting them, or you can use the quick select tool. Make sure you have the background layer selected when you do that. If you try to use select subject with the neon layer, it won't do anything. It will select the wrong thing. Okay, so we're going to add a mask, but don't add it to the background layer. We're going to add it to the neon one. So turn the neon one back on and choose the neon layer. Make sure you do this part very carefully. If you mask out the bottom layer, you're going to do it wrong. So click on this layer, and now we are going to click add a layer mask, like that. So now the mask is on the inside. However, we just need to invert it with Control I. So now we've inverted the mask. So now it looks like the person is in front of the neon. So now we just need to brush our mask to make it look like one of the tubes is going in front of them. So now we're going to go back to the brush tool and we're actually going to use the brush tool this time. So with the brush tool, make sure your mask is selected and we need to brush with white to make sure that this part gets shown. So make sure your brush is set. You can change the settings or the hardness for this one, but now we're going to brush right here to make it look like this tube is coming back. And now it looks like the neon is going around the subject, like that, just by brushing this one row or whichever part you want to come in front of the subject. And now it looks like this part is going behind the subject. Awesome. That's looking cool. All right, so now the next part is we are going to add a adjustment layer to the top to add the final glow. So it's looking really cool so far, but now it doesn't look real yet because the neon tube would be giving off light onto the subject. So let's add a adjustment layer. So go to your adjustment layers and we're going to do a black and white adjustment layer. So that'll make the whole thing black and white to start, but we're going to click the tint to make it all one color. So click tint and then choose a color. And then you can choose the same color used before. I'm going to paste that color right here, or pick a similar looking color and click OK. And now what you can do is you can still adjust the colors underneath it. So even though I added that tint to it, these original colors are still there. So let's say I take orange and yellows, I could adjust them. So now you can mess with these a little bit. So you can see if I turn this down, it's giving it that cool cyberpunk look. His glasses are getting darker and he's looking really cool. So feel free to still mess around with these to see how the colors come through. Excellent. That's looking good. Just adjust that however you want. I kind of like it like that. I like it getting darker, this more cyberpunk look. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new layer, create one more new layer that should be on the very top right here. And this one we're going to just do some contrasty colors. So let's go back to our brush again. Choose brush, make sure the hardness is at 0, and this one we want to be a fairly large brush. We want this one to be pretty big, like this, like a super huge brush. And for this one, we're going to change our foreground color, and we're going to pick a different color altogether. So I went with green, so make sure you don't choose green. Use a different color. If you choose a cool color like I did, like green or blue, for this next one, use an alternate color, a warm one, like yellow, orange, or red. And if you pick red, do vice versa. If you picked red for your neon, use a cool color for this next part. So for this one, I'm going to go with kind of this red or maybe even yellow orange. Let's go with that. I like that. Click OK. And now with the giant brush, we're just going to very softly kind of click around the edges just a little bit. A couple of clicks, not too many, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5, just kind of clicking around, kind of like that. Excellent. So now it looks kind of weird, but all we need to do is change the blending mode again. So we come here. I'm just going to change the blending mode one more time. You can see as you scroll through these different blending modes, it changes the way the images and the colors interact with each other. So if I do something like this, or overlay, or screen, or hard light, or something like that, it kind of gives it that cool cyberpunk look with the colors. Maybe I want difference. Pick whichever one you think looks cool. I'm going to go with linear light. I think that looks cool. And then click OK. So that is the neon light effect right here. And you can see each thing is on its own layer. We have our colors on one layer, our filter on one layer, and the neon light itself on another. So the background is still clean. Boom, just like that. Now you have this cool cyberpunk look. So as always, I want you to continue practicing all of those steps. Make sure you do them one at a time very carefully. Practice again on this one on Neon 2 and Neon number 3. Rewatch the video to get all of the steps that you need. You can also read the instructions because it has everything laid out for you. Do it in whichever way is the most comfortable for you. But as always, take your screenshots of all 3 of your practice files. You only have 3 because there's a lot more steps to this one. And then attach your practice screenshots right here. Have fun and let me know if you have any questions.